Let's improve your fantasy team this week with the waiver wire heading into week number 8. I'm going to start off with smaller league formats. Okay, so if you're in an 8 team or a 10 team, this list is specifically for you. These guys should already be rostered in every 12 or 14 man league. But Tyrone Tracy has slowly but surely started to take over the role in New York, even with Devin Singletary healthy. Chase Brown is taking over that RB1 role from Zach Moss. Alexander Madison is the dude for the Raiders, and he's a startable name each and every week so far. Rico Dowdle is a starter for the Cowboys. Bucky Irving is getting work with the Bucks. Tucker Kraft is a startable tight end week in, week out on a good offense. And Dak Prescott and Tua Tags are two quarterbacks that you can start on a weekly basis if you don't have a reliable name that's a plug and play regardless of matchup. All right, moving on to larger league formats. My number one pickup of the week would be Jauan Jennings if he is somehow out there on your waiver wire. In fact, in Yahoo leagues, he's available in about 69% of formats. On Sleeper, it's about 63%. So it depends on your format, but in a lot of leagues, he'll be available. And Brandon Ayuk, by the time you're watching this, you will likely know if Ayuk's knee injury is season ending or not. But I believe it is going to be a season ender, and that is why Jauan Jennings is my number one ad in every single format if he's out there. According to Ian Rappaport just recently, Brandon Ayuk is feared to have torn his ACL during the game versus the Kansas City Chiefs. They're waiting on the MRI to confirm. They asked Shanahan after the game about it. He said, "We're worried it's an ACL, but it's not confirmed yet." So again, by the time you're watching this, it's probably a confirmed ACL. If not, it's an IR stint. It's a Puka Nacua timeline, right? So honestly, like at the end of the day, I think Ayuk's going to be out for a long time. And between Ayuk's rusty start to begin the year, between Debo's injuries, Jauan Jennings was a very needed wide receiver for this offense in the first 4 weeks of the year, and he showed some real upside when he had opportunities. In week 1, he had 11 points, and week 3, obviously, without Deebo Samuel, he has 12 targets, 3 touchdowns, over 46 PPR points. And then in week 4, another almost 12-point game. So if Ayuk is out rest of season, you have a flexible name who has inbuilt chemistry with Glock Purdy himself. So I think you could probably spend about 25 to 30% of your fab if you really need a flex moving forward. And that's, of course, assuming Ayuk is ruled out for the rest of the season. All right, my second pickup would be Romeo Doubs. In sleeper leagues, he's widely rostered, but in other formats, he is available. He held out 2 weeks ago due to personal reasons. He wanted more opportunities in this offense. And honestly, can't blame him because he's doing really well with newfound opportunities. This week, he led the team in snap percentage at 83%, in route participation, 86%, and in targets with 10. The next closest wide receiver was Dontavion Wicks with 6. And now this is back-to-back weeks, over 17 PPR points for Romeo Doubs. If we can get that target share up and remain consistent, he will be a very, very good play for the rest of the season. I mean, if he can average 7 to 8 targets per game, we're talking about a top 24 to 30 finish rest of the way. Here's the issue, though. There are so many weapons in that offense, right? We just showed you the snap share from that entire team. Let's look at it again. Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Dontavion Wicks, Tucker Kraft. That's the issue here. So I'm not willing to, blow it all on Romeo Doubs, but about 15% I think is fair if he's out there. All right, at number 3, if Jauan Jennings isn't available, probably Slick Ricky Pearsall is available. And again, if Ayuk is ruled out for the season, Pearsall is a must roster player. This week, with no Deebo Samuel, he led wide receivers in snaps, routes run, and in targets with 5. He's an extremely talented player. Remember, this was a round 1 selection for the 49ers this year. Round 1, pick 31, first round wide receiver. Those guys typically have a chance to get involved straight away. The issue for Pearsall so far this year was that he was shot before the season, so he never had a chance to really establish himself. Well, now he has a huge opportunity with this huge gaping hole in this passing attack. And I believe Ricky Pearsall could legitimately beat out Jauan Jennings for the wide receiver 2 role at some point in the season. So if you don't want to spend big for Jauan Jennings if he's out there, then play the sneaky route and go get a Ricky Pearsall for 10 to 15% of your fab. Maybe more if you have to spend it just to see what he could be, that wild card on your roster. All right, at number 4, do you need a tight end? We talked about this name on our stash video last week, Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry is available in over 70% of leagues everywhere. This is the Drake May effect. If you look at the first 5 games of the season, we had one good game from Hunter Henry. The rest were complete duds. And the rest of those games, he's averaging about 3 to 4 targets per game. Then week 6 and 7, he gets up over 5 targets in both games, 9 targets versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, 92 yards in London, over 17 points, got into the end zone the week before versus Houston. 2 games, back-to-back games, over 13 PPR points. And at the time of recording this video, in the last 2 weeks, since Drake May became the starter, Henry is 4th in fantasy points scored amongst the tight end position. So in this economy, you absolutely have to roster him if you don't have a reliable name and see if he can continue to be consistent moving forward. All right, at number 5, do you need a running back? Well, there's 2 names that you can kind of stash on your roster, Ray Davis and Kamani Vidal. Most of you probably already have Ray Davis rostered in your leagues. Last week, Ray Davis played incredibly well in place of James Cook, right? If you guys remember, 23 total touches, 97 rushing yards, was super efficient, super dynamic, super explosive. And then this week with a healthy James Cook, he still had a role, over 41 yards, 8.2 yards per carry. If he keeps playing this good, they're going to have to put him on the field more and more and more. The issue is we need him to overtake Ty Johnson, because right now there are 3 running backs that are getting in this rotation. You can see Ray Davis had 13 snaps compared to 12 for Ty Johnson. Ray Davis had more early downs than Ty. He had more of the short yardage work, or even short yardage work, but we just need Ty Johnson to go away. But the reality is that's a complete possibility considering the fact that Ray Davis is a rookie and their roles typically grow over the course of a season. As for Kamani Vidal, Gus Edwards is on IR. Kamani Vidal gives you something that Gus Edwards can't as a pass catcher. And I don't wish this on J.K. Dobbins, but there's a huge injury history for J.K., right? The leg fracture all the way in 2016, ACL tear in 2021, as well as the LCL, as well as a hamstring tear in 2023, tore his Achilles. There's a huge history of him not being able to handle a workload. I'm not wishing on that, right? But if he were to go down, Vidal would be a league winner potentially with how important the run game is to the Chargers offense. And if Vidal gets a shot, he has a history of being a workhorse, at least back at Troy in his college days. So I'd spend about 10% of my fab on either of those names. I definitely think they're worth picking up. All right, we're going to talk about 3 wide receivers now. My 6A is Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman had his 2nd highest career snap percentage, 74%. He had a career high in targets with 7. He actually led the team in targets. Could the addition of Amari Cooper be exactly what we needed to see for Keon Coleman? Less attention from the defense, more one-on-ones where he can kind of use that jump ball specialty that he has. I think he's worth a stash, and about 10% of your fab is what I would spend. At 6B, the name that I'm actually the most excited about because I loved him out of college is Troy Franklin, who, by the way, featured on our stash video last week. Hopefully you stashed him before this. Before Thursday night, he, in week 6, had a career high in route participation. He had 50% of the end zone targets in back-to-back weeks. And in week 6, he had 11 fantasy points and got into the end zone for the first time. Then in week 7 on Thursday Night Football, he had 5 catches for 50 yards, looked great, was clearly the number 1 wide receiver, even over Cortland Sutton. I think that could continue to grow over the course of time. I'm willing to spend about 10% of my fab just to see what he could be on my roster. And my 6C is Cedric Tillman. No Amari Cooper, Jameis Winston is going to be your starter, and Tillman led wide receivers in targets with 11 and in target share with 24%. Got to keep in mind that this team threw the ball a bunch, all right? They had 84 total snaps. They were throwing the ball a lot. That's not going to be the case every single game, but that 24% target share is very healthy for Tillman, and he was 2nd amongst wide receivers in snaps and routes run. So talented guy out of Tennessee, kind of getting his opportunity now without Amari Cooper. If Jameis is a starter moving forward, then you should definitely pick him up to see what he could be in this offense. All right, at number 9, do you need a quarterback? If you're in a 1 quarterback league, Drake May, who we have not stopped talking about for multiple weeks now, should be rostered back-to-back weeks over 20 fantasy points. And Bo Nix is sneakily a very, very good add. I like his upcoming schedule. He has rushing upside. We've seen that. He had 75 yards last week on the ground, 60 yards on the ground the week before. He's always a threat to score on the goal line. I definitely think he's worth the pickup. And then in super flex formats, Jameis Winston should be a huge priority. It is so difficult to find a quarterback 2 on a super flex league. So I would not be afraid to kind of blow the load, if you will, on Jameis Winston. And that means, 50% in a super flex specifically format, right? All right, number 10, another player who has featured on our stash video last week, that is Ja'Tavion Sanders. Last week in that stash video, we mentioned his utilization, and that's why we liked him, right? Because in weeks 5 and 6, he had a 74 and a 73 route participation percentage. His targets per route run were going up. His target share was going up. His air yard share was going up. I mean, every week you were seeing more and more signs. And then this week, he goes 6 targets, catches all of them for 61 yards, a career high in yardage, a career high in receptions, a career high in fantasy points. In this economy, a rookie tight end who has improved their fantasy points in 4 straight weeks, and their target shares up, their snap shares up. Why wouldn't you roster that name, right? All right. Do you need a defense for week 8? Here are some streaming options. The Ravens at the Browns, the Jets at the Patriots, the Chargers versus the Saints, and the Lions versus the Titans. All great options for you here in week 8 if you don't have a clear, better option. And we will finish with honorable mentions. This is for deeper formats, your 14, 16 team leagues. Dontavion Wicks is probably dropped in a lot of leagues. I mean, I love Dontavion Wicks. It's not a secret. When he's on the field, Jordan Love likes to target him. He definitely has the highest target per route run on this team. It's not even close. Every time he's on the field, he gets target. It's just he doesn't get on the field as much as the other guys. Kayshon Boutte is probably going to be the number 1 wide receiver for Drake May. It's either him or Pop Douglas because Jalen Polk can't catch a cold. Rashad Bateman's been sneakily good. We'll talk about some of these other names, for example, like Jake Hayner in a super flex format, right? Jonnu Smith in a deeper format if you need a tight end. But that's it for today. I appreciate you guys for watching the video. Do me a favor, smash that like button to show some love. Subscribe if you like the content. The last thing I'll say is if you haven't taken advantage of a free account on Flock Fantasy yet, definitely go do it, guys. When you sign up, use a promo code LAND and you can get a free account that will unlock expert consensus rankings, the My Team Analyzer, the trade calculator, some great free premium tools for you. And by the way, if you have a question that you want me to answer, you can do that through our website. It is the pinned comment. There's a link there to our website where you can ask us a question. I appreciate you for watching this video. Good luck in week 8, and we'll see you soon. All love. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.